Time for our next keynote with a fantastic title, this one. It's really touched on some of the issues we've already been discussing today and extends upon it, and that's artificial intelligence and human centricity. Intelligence is increasingly artificial, but creativity is still human. Fantastic title. Whoever wrote that one, well done. My guest today is Paula Starr, who's Chief Information Officer at Cherokee Nation. Hi Paula, how are you?
I'm doing well, and thank you for the compliment on the title. I actually wrote it myself. I didn't have ChatGPT do it.
Fantastic. No, I really enjoyed that title. It really links in nicely to some of the discussions we were having earlier about where AI can come in and where creativity and humanity is essential. You know, I could have got AI to have written all my questions today, and you know what, they wouldn't react to what's actually happened in the questions, and they wouldn't be half as fun. Anyway, the digital floor is yours, and we'll come back with some of my questions at the end.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to say, CEO, hello to everybody today, and thank you, Tech Live attendees, for joining me today. Thank you for including me on your learning journey. I really do appreciate it, and I am very much humbled by it. So thank you very much. Today, we're going to talk about those things about us that are uniquely human, that we bring to technological change, and that I feel really prepares us for anything that comes our way, not just generative AI. So let's dive into it, because I got a lot of content, and I was timing myself earlier, and it's not looking good. So we'll try to get through it all. So my name is Paula Starr. I'm the Chief Information Officer at the Cherokee Nation government. Cherokee Nation is the largest federally recognized tribe in the United States of America. We have 460,000 citizens, and they mostly live across a 7,000 square mile reservation. I feel like at Cherokee Nation, we are masters of creativity, because we've absolutely had to tap into creativity in order to adapt and to survive. So we're an incredibly creative lot here. And as I talk to you today, I know that we have a shared experience. I don't know where you're watching me from today. I don't know where you've been the past few years, but I feel very confident in saying that we probably had a shared experience. We've all lived through this pandemic. We have all seen an increasingly polarized worldview. We, instead of coming together, we seem to be diverging and getting very set in our thought processes. And we've all been hit with rising costs and inflation. And all of these things that we have in common are incredibly binding. But we're about to face another one that we all have in common, and especially as technologists. If you're watching this today and you're a technologist, we're all standing on this shared frontier of generative AI. And unfortunately, it's not one of those frontiers that we can go explore at our leisure and we can roam around and see what looks good. It's hurtling towards us, right? And so we have to be prepared. And that frontier is generative AI. And so when I say those two words, it's three, generative artificial intelligence, I want you to stop and think, what was your gut reaction? What is your gut reaction when you hear those words? What do you think of? I find that reaction is also very polarizing. There's one of two ways that it can go. And the first is excitement about the possibilities. We've only begun to tap into the possibilities. Right now, we're at a very surface level, right? Like we're using generative AI in very superficial ways right now, on a very personal level. But those superficial ways are pretty darn good. They've helped us eliminate mundane tasks. So I had the privilege of visiting with several other CIOs earlier this week and really learning from them and just soaking in all the knowledge. And one of them said that he has been using AI to generate job descriptions. So you think about job descriptions, the way that I've always done it is I go out and do an online search, use a search engine, find 5 different examples of the job that I'm trying to create, and I pick and choose and pull from those sources. Well, now we just put in that input, right, into generative AI, and we get a fantastic, sophisticated output. So it's really, no one likes writing job descriptions unless you're a sadist. So it's a fantastic way to take care of something like that. There are skill gaps that are filled with generative AI. Another interesting example that I heard from that same group of CIOs, one of them said that he used generative AI to help him write a memo to one of his vendors asking for cost reductions. And now for someone who isn't great at the negotiating table, I think it's a really interesting way to get some inputs on what are the terms on which I could negotiate with this vendor? What are some of the things that I could go after? I thought that was an ingenious use case. Obviously, there are time savings to be had. There is no more precious commodity than your time. While certainly you can put a monetary value on your time, there's also that invaluable aspect of what gaining back time with your loved ones and those that love you and need your support. There's no way to measure what that means. And then, of course, there's productivity gains. All the time that I'm not spending writing a job description, or that I'm not spending trying to figure out the correct template for a recommendation letter, is time that I can get back, and I guarantee you I'm using it in valuable ways. Now, if you didn't react with excitement when I mentioned generative AI, you may have felt anxiety. And I would venture to guess that that is the emotion that most of us as technologists feel when we think about it, because it's a very overwhelming topic, right? And some of the things that we worry about job loss. While you may not be worried about your job, I don't really worry about losing my job. I do worry about the communities around us. I worry about whether we're ready to shift skills for those who could lose their jobs. I worry about our friends and family. There's also a worry about loss of data sovereignty. You're plugging in these inputs into generative AI, and they're no longer exclusively yours. They become subject to output. They become subject to other people's eyes. And so that's one thing that's very important to remember. And I've tried to get that message out here with Cherokee Nation government. And sometimes I don't know if we're really making inroads in getting that message out. I certainly worry about a lack of inclusion. There's a concern that there's a lack of diverse viewpoints being represented within the building of generative artificial intelligence. And then I begin to worry, are we going to become even more polarized? Are people getting left out? Now, in the United States, I realize that this is a global audience. And in the United States, I feel like there's been a lot of kickback on diversity and inclusion, a lot of kickback on those efforts. We're seeing it with our politicians and our legislatures. But my opinion is diversity only makes us stronger. It can only strengthen us. And I think that there are lessons in history that prove that out. You think about the Navajo code talkers and the other tribes that had code talkers. They absolutely helped us ensure during World War II that our communications were not intercepted and were not used against us. There's an argument there that diversity has actually saved our democracy. And so, again, I worry that we lose some of that diversity. There's one thing that I didn't put in this list that I absolutely should have is, can you trust the output? We've all heard about AI hallucinations. And so you still have to apply your human brain when you consume some of this output. And finally, there's a fear of readiness. If you are a technologist, you have either already been asked or you're about to be asked, how are you going to apply generative AI for us? How are you going to let us have those tools? And that question can set you back, and it can, again, fill you with anxiety. But anxiety and worry are truly useless emotions. And I'm here to tell you that you have every tool available to you already to adapt and to be ready for generative AI and to be ready to apply it, to be able to apply any technology that's new to you. All of those skills are already existing with you, and you already have the ability to continue to cultivate them. So this is my not so scientifically derived formula of what I think it takes to not only adapt and apply, but to transcend, to create something truly wonderful. And to me, that is having that foundation of technology. You've got to have the technology, right? We're not doing this with pen and paper. You got to have the technology, but you have to understand that technology, and you have to fully understand its capabilities, what it can do. Then you have to apply your own understanding of your environment to that knowledge and to that technology base. And then you take those things together and you add in your own human creativity. And that is what makes magic. So let's talk about each piece of this equation. The technology I'm not going to get into, you know that. That's the base, that's the foundation. You know, one thing about the technology is I think people make the mistake of thinking the technology by itself is transcendent. It's not. The iPhone, my iPhone is absolutely indispensable to me. It is not the iPhone itself that makes itself indispensable. It's not the iPhone itself that is transcendent. It is all the things that people have built on top of the iPhone, right? It's all the problems, the real problems that were solved by that iPhone. It's me being able to get a ride share from anywhere and have confidence. And now I can go out and travel. I can go out and explore a city now. Those are the kind of things that are transcendent. But to get there, we start with knowledge, and you've got to cultivate knowledge. Your knowledge is a plant, and you have to care for it. You have to nourish it. You have to water it. You have to make sure that it has everything to grow. And your knowledge is going to grow in correlation to the care and feeding that you give it. It is also going to wither in correlation to the care and feed that you don't give to it. So you absolutely have to keep watering that plant. And the ways that you do that, there's a couple of key things. You really need to follow the latest advancements in technology. I promise you, Technology Magazine did not ask me to do this, but I'm going to give them a shameless plug because not only did they put on this great event, but they also have newsletters that you can subscribe to. If you get those, take a quick read through those every day just to keep yourself current. And the other thing that's big, especially when you're running an IT shop like I am, is to focus in on the latest functionality from your specific vendors, from those vendors that serve your industry. Make sure you know what they can do. I just got back from Cisco Live. That's one thing that's important. You got to go to conferences. You got to go to webinars. You all know that because you're watching this today. But I just got back from Cisco Live, and G2 Patel rolled out the SOC Digital Assistant. To me, that is a game changer for lean IT departments who are trying to protect their digital assets. Salesforce rolled out Einstein GPT recently, and you can go out on their trailhead and actually do a module over Einstein GPT and play with it, get to use it. It's real experiential learning. I've said before, I don't think that the barriers to learning have ever been lower. There are so many resources. You just kind of have to go out and find them, but there are so many resources to help you understand how AI is being applied. But it's not enough to know the technology and to understand it. You have to understand your environment. You have to understand the problems that exist. Now, that all starts with developing relationships. If you will come to your stakeholders in a very open and non-judgmental way, you will be amazed at what they will share with you. You will be amazed at the skeletons that start popping out of the closets. And that's absolutely key. You have to build those relationships. You have to build that trust. You have to let them know, I'm here to work with you. I'm here to help you figure things out. I'm not here to judge anything that you've done in the past. Let's figure this out together. And once you've built that trust, then you really need to dig in and assess the pain points and start prioritizing them. And it's not enough to do it one time. You got to keep iterating. You got to keep going back and doing it again and again and again, because technology changes, right? And you're keeping up with your knowledge. You're learning what's new, what is newly available, and priorities shift with the business as well. So because of those two things, you can't let that understanding get stale. You have to go back in and you have to work on it further. Now, we've talked about having knowledge of the technology and then having an understanding of your environment. Truly, no machine is ever going to understand your environment the way that you can understand your environment. That's magic there. And it feels like those two things should be enough, right? But they're really not, because now you have to apply your creativity. I feel like understanding and knowledge are enough in predictable environments. They're enough in a perfect world. You and I do not live in perfect worlds. And so sometimes you got to get creative with what you're given. And, you know, this pandemic to me was one of the most creative periods I've ever witnessed. We had real problems, right? Real problems push you to be creative. They make you think of things in ways that you never would think of them. They force you to really tap into something that you didn't know you had. And because of that pandemic, there are services that are greatly improved, and our lives will never be the same. I used to spend, pre-pandemic, I used to spend an hour in the grocery store every week. Now we have scheduled online pickup, scheduled delivery, and I use those methods now. I've probably been in a grocery store 5 times in the past couple of years. But you think about that, from an hour every week to 5 times every 2 years, I'm saving 2 days. I'm like recouping 2 days of my life every year. And you probably are too. And just imagine what kind of gain that is. I mean, that's amazing. And again, it all goes back to, we got to combine knowledge, understanding, and then add some creativity in. One of my favorite examples of this at Cherokee Nation is with our Citizen Access Portal call center. So we decided during the pandemic that we were going to make COVID-19 financial assistance available to all 460,000 tribal citizens. We did that digitally. Well, guess what? Not everybody is attuned to using digital, and a lot of people were. A lot of people got through it, had no problems. But you're always going to have that segment of the population who either can't use the technology or they're having difficulty with it. So you have to have other means of assisting them. For us, we knew we needed a call center. We'd never had a call center in our history, and we had a week to put it together. A week is not enough time to put together a good call center. So we really had to get creative. Okay, what technology do we have? Well, we have this Verizon One Talk system, and it will allow you to take calls from any device. So, okay, that's great. We can take calls from a laptop. We can take calls from a cell phone. Perfect. But we need people, right? We need people to man those lines. And they need to be in a space, and it's COVID time. So do we really want to throw people together in the same space? And beyond that, we don't have people to hire to put into this call center if we had a physical space. So as you think about it, the technology is great. It allows you to take a call from any device. Okay, fantastic. That solves that problem of people being together in the same space. But who are the people that are going to man it? And so fortunately for us, it was summertime, and we actually have our own high school. We have Sequoia High School at Cherokee Nation, and those teachers were off for the summer. So we made outreach to the teachers. Hey, would you like to have some summer employment answering phones? And by the way, you can answer them from your house. You can answer them from wherever you are. You don't have to come into the office. So again, it was technology, and that technology was not necessarily fit for purpose for us for a long-term call center, but it worked for us in the moment. and we're able to use our creativity to blend everything together to create something that worked for us. I firmly, firmly believe that anyone can achieve transcendence in technology delivery if they combine those elements that we just talked about, taking the knowledge of the technology, taking your understanding of the environment, and your way of getting at the truth in ways that no technology can do. And then taking those things together and combining them in a creative way, you do those things. And I really, truly believe that transcendence will be yours. And I want to thank you today. In Cherokee, we say wado. Wado is the Cherokee word for thank you. I want to thank you for sitting with me today and taking in all this information. And I wish you best of luck in your journey towards generative AI.
Well, wado to you, Paula. I hope I had a reasonable stab at that. I hope I got it okay.
No, perfect.
Thank you very much. One question before we move on to the network break, because I know from experience of hosting such things, if you stop people going to their network break, people get grumpy. So I'll just do the one question. And it rounds up a lot of things that we've been talking about today when it comes to AI, but really bringing in the human centricity and the creativity that you were talking about there. For you, is it a mindset? Because it can be very easy to think negatively about AI. We were talking about job displacement, we were talking about bias earlier and so forth. For you, is it important to think positively about it and about the opportunities it brings when it comes to the human opportunities?
Absolutely. And here's the thing. We can't do it. It's coming, right? And it's here. It's here. So we have no choice but to dive in. It's much easier to dive into something when you're thinking about it positively than when you're thinking about it negatively. Those negative things, I don't know that there's much that we can do to forestall all of that, all those negative outcomes. The best that we can hope for is to use it in our own positive way and create our own positive outcomes.
That is a very good way to think about things and a perfect way to lead us into our networking break. Paula, thank you so much. Really enjoyed your presentation, really enjoyed your company. Thanks for joining us at Tech Live London.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much.